Good evening from Hungary. The great day arrived. It's a great evening for us to be here with you at our parallel event at the NGO CSW66 virtual forum. In the opening, I would like to introduce our organization and present our activities in the Visegrad countries. The Association for Women's Career Development in Hungary, founded in 2003, aims to promote women's employment by balancing the needs of private and family life. To this end, it is essential that we foster a dialogue between the government, the corporate and non-profit spheres, and higher education in cooperation with international experts and NGOs on the United Nations and European level. Our organization, as the first Hungarian NGO in special consultative status with UN ECOSOC, awarded in 2009, has regularly participated in annual CSW and NGO CSW New York events. At this point of time, we would like to congratulate to NGO CSW New York on their 50th anniversary. We all have been missing live events, but at the same time, as a positive benefit of the coronavirus, we have learned how advances in technology bring people closer in the world and how we can provide wider international reach. This is the second time that we can organize a parallel event within the NGO CSW virtual forum, and I would like to thank to the organizers to have included our event in the forum's agenda. I would like to thank our distinguished speakers from the US, Netherlands, Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary, who have agreed to speak in our programs, which we have compiled in line with the themes of the CSW66. Within the framework of the NGO CSW66 forum, we are organizing our 2-hour online event on March 17, 2022, from 7 to 9 p.m. with 10 presentations grouped into 2 parts. Part 1 about the impact of the pandemic on the work-life balance of Visegrad women, and Part 2 about the programs of our organization dedicated to the UN Decade of Healthy Aging. Women, Family and Careers, Work-Life Balance in the V4 countries. This was the title of our research conducted between October 2021 and February 2022. Our university partner in this research was the Krakow University, and their professor will talk about the scientific and human aspects of their qualitative research. We are pleased that the second time we have the opportunity to bring a Visegrad project to this forum. On this occasion, we would like to introduce the representative of the International Visegrad Fund. This fund provides the financial background for implementing our ideas and dreams born in the V4 countries. As one of the few NGOs coming from our region to this forum, we always look to adopt positive foreign best practices to bring home. Needless to say, at the same time, we are proud to present our exemplary Hungarian practices. Therefore, I am pleased that the Managing Director of the Family Friendly Hungary Center will present those Hungarian measures that are almost unique in the world, which affect Hungarian women and families, especially with regard to dealing with COVID. With our nearly 20 years of experience and professional background, we decided to address the impact of the pandemic on women, especially the impact of the labor market. Therefore, we are pleased to work together with our professional partners from the V4 countries, the University of Krakow from Poland, the Business and Professional Women from the Czech Republic, and the Association of Business Women from the Slovak Republic on implementing the women, families, careers, effects of the pandemic on work-life balance in the Visegrad countries project, thanks to the support of the Visegrad Fund. I would like to mention also the names of our Hungarian partners organizations who are the Családbarát Magyarország Központ, Family Friendly Hungary Center, the Hungarian Red Cross, the National Association of Large Families, NOE, and the Women's Entrepreneurs Club of the Győr-Mosoly-Sopron County Chamber of Commerce. Since the onset of the pandemic, the situation of countries, economies, and individuals have changed. There have been carried out a wide range of research. We have just selected some, and which I would like to mention now. International and domestic analysis draw attention to the increased challenges facing women as a result of the pandemic and the resulting economic crisis, which contribute to an increasing gender inequalities. This was carried out by the Eurofund in 2020 and 21. The situation of women in the labor market by the European Parliament carried out in 2021. Women at the core of the fight against the COVID-19 crisis by the OECD. Teleworking during the COVID pandemic and beyond by the ILO carried out in 2020. V4 countries are the most family-centric nations by the Maria Kopp Institute and Századrég Alapítvány from Hungary. COVID-19 has driven millions of women out of the workforce. Here is how to help them to come back by McKinsey and Oxford Economics from 2021. And I would like to mention, which is also important when we talk about the background of our research, that a family-friendly coalition was formed between the countries participating in the Visegrad cooperation in 2021. In part one of our event, I would like to introduce our distinguished speakers. Mrs. Ewelina Stacherzak, Project Manager from the International Visegrad Fund. Mrs. Monika Modla, member of our organization's research team. Professor Jolanta Mackovics, PhD from the University of Krakow, and Dr. Agnes Suromi Kovács, Head of Family Friendly Hungary Center. I would like to give the floor to our distinguished speakers, and I will come back to you in part two.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be part of this event. Dear Mrs. Ferenczi, thank you for the invitation. I'm Ewelina Stacherzak, and I'm Project Manager in the International Visegrad Fund, and I'm supporting the implementation of the project Women, Families, Careers, Effect of the Pandemic on Work-Life Balance in the Visegrad countries. I will start with a short story. A few days ago, I came across a picture which showed baby strollers left on the train station by Polish mothers to Ukrainian mothers. The picture represented solidarity, jointness, and support, which are the most important values that I believed in. And I'm very lucky, because these values are also crucial for the International Visegrad Fund. We were called an emblematic institution of the Visegrad cooperation furthering people-to-people relations. In the declaration of the Prime Ministers of the Czech Republic, Hungary, the Republic of Poland, and the Slovak Republic on the occasion of 30th anniversary of the Visegrad Group. Let me just give you some information about our donor organization. We were founded in 2000 by the declaration of the V4 Prime Ministers. Our mission is to strengthen the ties of the V4 and to develop the cooperation between their non-governmental institutions in the field of culture, research, education, tourism, cross-border cooperation, and a youth exchange. We are supporting people and their ideas with the budget of 10 million euros per year. Our seat is located in Bratislava. Within 20 years of Visegrad Fund, we have supported people and their ideas with the budget of 100 million euro. Most of our projects are implemented in the Visegrad region. Nonetheless, 20% of our budget supports the project in the Western Balkans and Eastern Partnership countries. Until now, we have supported 6,000 grants and almost 3,000 individual scholars and residents. It's a big chain of organizations who are cooperating with each other. We have supported 3,400 entities which implemented the projects in more than 600 cities. We have three main activities, which are mobilities, grants, and residencies. We are supporting Visegrad Scholarship Mobility Program, Visegrad Scholarship at the Open Society Archives in Budapest, research grants at Historical Archives of the EU in Florence, and a civil servant mobility program. The biggest one is the Visegrad Scholarship Program, which is dedicated to students on the bachelor, master, and postmaster's level. The students can realize their mobilities in all disciplines in any language for up to 4 semesters at more than 190 higher education institutions across the Central Europe, Western Balkans, and Eastern Partnership countries. In 2020, we supported 143 scholars in total amount of 1,200,000 euros. The second activities which we are conducting is artistic residencies. And these are performing arts residency, visual and sound arts residency, residencies in New York, and literary residencies. The last but not least, it's our activity, it's grants who are supporting the implementation of the projects. With the grants, we seek to advance innovative ideas that address shared challenges by high-quality regional cooperation projects. We have 3 types of grants: Visegrad Grant, Visegrad Plus Grant, and Strategic Grant. Our grantees are implementing their project in 7 focus areas. The most popular are culture and common identity, and education and capacity building. Nonetheless, they are also implementing a project in the following fields like innovation, entrepreneurship, regional development, environment, tourism, democratic values and the media, public policy and institutional partnership, and social development. We are cooperating with various types of grantees. Some of the projects are implemented by the big universities, some of them by small organizations. Currently, we are supporting projects which are related to the women's situation, such as post-COVID recovery of small family businesses in V4 countries, child in a kinship care, preparation and further support of the families, and the project that we are discussing today. I hope this presentation was informative and interesting for you. If you would like to know more about the Visegrad Fund, please visit our webpage. Thank you so much for your attendance. Goodbye.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Association for Women's Career Development in Hungary, I would like to welcome you and to introduce you our research on women, families, careers, the effects of the pandemic on work-life balance in the Visegrad countries. First, I would like to give you an insight about our research resources. Our subject was the examination of women employment, family, and work balance. We had included a questionnaire survey and focus groups interviews as well. Our distant locations were in the V4 countries, Czech Republic, Poland, Hungary, and Slovakia. There are also different locations within these countries. This is a representative survey. The main features of our questionnaire survey and our focus groups interviews were, first, we were thinking about if we can form the same opinion within the V4 countries, and will there be any information for decision makers. The aim was to examine women's employment, the family and work balance, and expectations in relation of the impact of the pandemic. The questionnaire consisted of 12 closed questions, and there were optional statements to one question. 4 focus groups with the members from 5 to 8 people were formed in each of the countries according to our 4 target groups. Our 4 target groups are mother with children, woman planning a family, woman over 50, and rural women. I would like to go on with the results of the quantitative surveys. So we have some data here, like more than 900 people from 4 countries completed this questionnaire. 70% of the respondents were living in marriage or in relationship. And the idea of family planning did not change, only postponed in people. More than 60% of the respondents worked in person during the pandemic among the people who filled in our questionnaire, and 37% worked from home office. We have some solutions as well for the employers for the situation after the third wave. 35% of the respondents were able to work safely from any kind of environment. It could have been home offices, telework, and usual method of working. But there is an instant need for more detailed description of these atypical working methods and work organizations. This is very important. The home office was more typical in case of more highly qualified persons, and those with secondary or lower education mainly attended the workplace. So more results of the survey are like there was an instant demand for digital literacy, and 47% of the respondents for all ages demanded the increase of digital literacy. The closeness was also a result. The pandemic brought families together and they could share many nice experiences. Only 2% and 3% of the people were described panic and criticism of each other during the pandemic, according to our questionnaire. The COVID-19 pandemic changed the daily routine as well of the families. The change in the daily schedule affected all age groups, but mostly women between 41 and 50. In families with children, women were learning with the children in addition and in parallel with their home office. More results of the survey are as well as hygienic methods used in the families has become very common. But it is an important, interesting fact that only 37% of the respondents work from workplaces said that 11% indicated stricter hygienic rules. The idea of family planning, as I mentioned before, did not change, only postponed. And the COVID-19 has changed the situation of women. So in parallel with their work, the housework, the teaching of the children were done by women as well. And in addition to that, women played a coordination role as well in the family during the pandemic. Some more results are that TV channels, the outcome of the survey, of course, that TV channels have helped society to adapt pandemic. Hygienic rules were presented in all of the V4 countries, and but at the same time, the presentation of good practices about organizing the family and work and teaching the children were quite minimal. Only 3% of the survey people mentioned that. Government measures for families and jobs in connection with the COVID-19 were health measures, introduction of moratorium on loan payment, and support for atypical work like part-time or home office work. So in the analysis, we had 29 interviews in 4 focus groups. 105 test sequences were selected and grouped into 8 thematic groups. The 4 groups were 6 people of the Czech Republic, 8 people of Polish nationality, 8 people from Hungary, and 7 people from Slovakia. The results of the qualitative research. First, the impact of the pandemic on family organization and functioning of the family. These are signs of experiencing pandemic situation in the family, balance between family and work, methods used to relieve stress, and traces of psychological impact of the pandemic. As well as another result, that impact of the pandemic on a day-to-day work and cooperation with the employer. The role of employer changed wide in these forms. So there were different forms of work, different job opportunities, and the impact of the pandemic on online work and on teaching has become different as well. Reconciling work and teaching of the children, as I mentioned, has become the work of the women. So more results of qualitative research were post-pandemic lifestyle changes. So people started new activities, they started to develop their talents, passions, which they have been neglected earlier. They started to consider learning is important. They plan to continue to spend as much time as with their family as it is possible during the pandemic, more than before the pandemic. They continue to decorate their houses, and hygienic has been built into everyday's life. So the fulfillment of or hypothesis of or research are here in the PPT. You can see that, but I can tell you that all hypotheses have been fulfilled. You can see the details here in the PPT. Let's move on. So we have some recommendations for of our research, the outcome of our research. One of them is that the world can be subjected to a new pandemic anytime, so it is better to prepare for a possible new pandemic systematically. In education, there were problems with the internet connection and the use of software. So it is very important to develop digital background of education at all levels, from lower age groups to secondary school. Atypical working methods and work organizations like part-time and home office need to be developed. It has been solved that daily practice, the ratio of the work task to wages should prevail. The importance of IT at work is as well continue to grow, leading to the need of continuous learning and further studies. Attention needs to be paid to maintenance and improvement of this IT part. And after the third wave of COVID-19, the fear vanished, but the stress remained, which many tried to resolve by various methods. The media did not play a role in this area. There may be something that can be done with the government support and the involvement of experts to make this part more active in the media. We have other recommendations as well. So the opinion about the media was very controversial. Information on the pandemic was an ongoing basis, but many people said that after a while they decided not to let in the news flow in their lives because the media pressure was too big. And the hygiene, which is very important for health, was not important for everyone. In addition, using masks and hand disinfections and the purchase of disinfection of food and items was used only when it was mandatory. The isolation of COVID-infected family members was not common either. So these are interesting questions, and no one received advice about these topics from anywhere. In the pandemic, the home office and the learning at the home generated new problems. In many cases, it was necessary to buy digital devices, but also occurred that people had to buy new furniture, or some people had to rent computer as well for work. I would like to move on with the PPT. So in the next slide, we have some interesting correlations in the research, which I would like to present you. Few of the questions, like, for example, this question, how did COVID-19 affect your breadwinning work? You can see the results here in the next slide. So basically what is important, what is interesting here is that all the 4 countries had around the same percentage in the answers as in the outcome of the research. And you can see in the other questions as well. We have here, like, for example, question 6, how do you see whether the COVID-19 pandemic changed the atmosphere in the families? And now I show you the results of this questionnaire here as well. So this is very interesting that all the 4 countries has around the same percentage in their answers. So this is something very typical and very interesting. And this is the age of respondents in the questionnaire of the survey. I just want to show you the percentages, and we added here one more question which have the same outcome as I mentioned you before. So this question that how does COVID-19 changing the situation of women in your countries? So the Czech Republic, Poland, Hungary, and Slovakia gave around the same answers, almost the same answers, very small, with very small differences. So the outcome basically was very homogenic in these 4 countries. This is a question as well, that how do you see TV programs helping the society to adapt the pandemic in your country? And we have the same results here, that you can see that Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Poland had around the same results in this question as well. So I would like to thank you for your attention. I hope it was interesting topic for you as well.
Good afternoon, everyone, and greetings from Poland. What I want to say you that my presentation will show you individual history of each woman. And analysis of research results focused on these 3 issues, like organization in the family life, daily work and cooperation with employer, transformation of the lifestyle due to the pandemic, and expectations and vision for the future. And one sentence more, as this is a qualitative research, I will present you mainly citations, because very often the citations, the statements of the respondents say and show and present much more than even best comments. And here on the tape, you can see the selected cases which will be presented. And first case is Teresa. She represents group mother of the children. She's married, mother of 3 children, and she's a teacher. In her case, the pandemic allowed the whole family to spend time together and use it effectively. She said, I began to appreciate it because I had more time for my family, as I didn't have to commute 45 minutes to work. And sometimes I managed to do some extra work during the online classes, cook a meal or help my kids. In our study, all respondents emphasized the negative consequences on emotions and behaviors in their families. Teresa mentions it too. She said, after about a month, I noticed that our son, who needs more activity, began to have depressive states. We had to motivate him to participate in classes. She also mentioned that engaging in new activities helped to survive the pandemic. I thought I might improve my qualifications, so me and my husband began some training which gave us feeling we were developing and learning despite many limitations. And second thing, it was an escape from the reality. Teresa mentioned that she had to help her children with school at the expense of her career. She said, when me and my sons began online teaching and learning, it turned out that our 2-bedroom apartment is too small. Eventually, the older son was learning in the smaller room. The younger was in the bigger room supervised by my husband, and I was teaching my students from the kitchen. The pandemic resulted in the new forms of work online, even in the areas where it had been previously impossible. It meant organizing the workplace, home office, within the private space. The classes with the students were recorded in Teams and monitored by the IT team. The duration and who was present. One had to really control oneself. So we can see how it was very difficult for her. New tool, new way to teach, yes, and all was recorded and all was under control. And post-pandemic lifestyle. Undoubtedly, the successive waves of the pandemic had some impact on lifestyle. The respondent decided to introduce changes which she had previously put off. She said, I finally saw that this is my space. I stopped treating it like a place where we only sleep and eat. We made some changes, for example, we decorated windows. Recently, I have added some more plants because they create warm and cozy atmosphere. I began to take care of his space. We have bought a 3-tier bunk bed for the kids, so they too had their own space. And second case is Sophia, a woman who planned a family. In this case, the respondent emphasized the negative consequences of isolation in the first place. She said, the lockdown affected my mental health. I had a major breakdown. I also had to postpone the wedding date, even though and my fiancé long been planning to start a family. After a while, I began to notice that I had problems with breathing. Sophia, a student, described her struggles with remote learning as her large family was sharing a small living space. This is absolutely something incredible. There were 6 people in the apartment, she said. me and my brother, having online classes. All looked within the four walls. It seemed that soon we would jump at each other's throats. I had my classes, my brother had his, and we had to share one room. I disturbed him, he disturbed me. There were two TV sets on at the same time because our parents watched one, and Grandpa, who has a hearing problems, watched other with volume high up. And I needed peace and quiet to learn. The student emphasized that she had experienced various difficulties connected with online education. Regarding those difficulties with meeting the requirements, I experienced it last year when I studied the history of art. We had to write an assignment. The books I needed to write the assignment were available only for on-site reading. I couldn't take them home, so it was great hit runs. As a result of the pandemic, the student experienced a personal transformation. She acquires personal characteristics which now help her life. Once shy and insecure, she became almost a fighter. She said, "I have learned to live in constant uncertainty when tomorrow is unpredictable. But the advantage, if it is that I don't leave anything for later. I have learned to study in the new conditions. I stopped being afraid of interaction with other people. My family trained me enough. I became a person who fights for their needs to be satisfied. I have also learned to set borders. Now I'm stronger than before, and I can feel I'm ready to start a new chapter in my life." Third case is Maria. She represents women over 50. Maria, divorced mother of 3 daughters. She is a translator. Forced isolation increased the already existing problems and tensions. Maria shared that her husband left her during that time. Our family broke apart. I mean, there had been tension for a long time. To say it bluntly, my husband couldn't cope with this all and just moved out. It may seem strange, but both me and our daughters, we felt relief. It had cleared the atmosphere. The respondent mentioned that she had to help her children with school at the expense of her career. My job too depended on my younger daughter. Using computer to learn was new to her. She struggled with online communication with her teachers. I was lucky because my profession allowed me to modify my schedule and do my job late in the evening or very early in the morning. And the problem was that we had one PC and one notebook. Suddenly it turned out that we need twice as much. The respondent decided to engage in new activities and develop passions for which she had no time before. I decided that I would finally get my driving license. I began the course and I will soon take the exam, so I hope I will finally make this happen. I am translator, but English had been always my weakness, so I decided to finally take the challenge. I also adopted a dog, and I think it was a great idea. I felt better. I could go out and walk and began to notice the beautiful world around, the changing seasons. In her case, paradoxically, the pandemic has changed her life for better practically in all areas: family, professional, personal. And last case is Monica, a woman living in the countryside. She is married, she is a beautician. Forced isolation, being locked in a small space, and lack of conditions to work remotely also generated tensions and conflict. Monica recalls, There were many tensions when my husband worked from home. His papers and documents were everywhere. I am perfectionist, and I need an ordered space to think. My husband doesn't care. I was frustrated when I saw his thing all over the place, dirty mugs in the sink. Another source of conflict was the postponed in vitro procedure. He didn't understand that I was so afraid to get COVID that I didn't want to meet with people. The respondent emphasized that long-term isolation led to some emotional and psychological disorder. During the lockdown, I began to feel anxious. I kept thinking about all the worst-case scenarios, and I couldn't sleep. My husband thought I overacted. I felt not understood, so the depression increased. But the woman also mentions that she relays, she tried to cope with the difficult situation with contact with the nature. During the pandemic, I realized I had always wanted to live in the countryside. Sometimes we went to the forest to relax and walk mask-free. Just today, I noticed that we all here mask-free, and this is fantastic. Cooperation with employer. My employer understood my situation, my anxiety and fear of interacting with people. They let me take an unpaid leave. Remote work was not an option in my profession. The respondent decided to introduce some changes in her closet environment. Previously ignored aesthetic side of it became the priority. While sitting at home, I realized that all our windows look out on the walls. Tightly packed buildings, one house right by another. I decided to do something with it. I didn't move the walls, but I bought lots of plants and changed green curtains. Finally, the respondent emphasized that one shouldn't waste time and enjoy the moment. She said, I have learned to enjoy small things and appreciate the power of peace and quiet. Where I live now, it is much safer and life is more predictable. I can have impact on my well-being. I have learned to appreciate every moment and enjoy it. I can also help other people, other women, be beautiful. It is a pretty good future prospect. And to sum up, the respondents have developed mechanisms to cope with the challenging reality. The pandemic released in them the unexpected potential of strength and resources. As they faced the difficulties, they realized that they could fight for themselves and take care of themselves and their family. And let me close with the words of the 51-year-old respondent, Maria, whose life broke apart completely during the pandemic and was rebuilt based on new value. She said, I realized that life is so unpredictable, so fragile, that hardly anything depends on us. I decided that I will not waste my time on dreaming, but I will act instead. I will do that what I had been thinking of, but had postponed it for later. I decided to act. And thank you very much.
Dear forum participants, over the last decade, Hungary has accomplished a number of achievements in supporting families, especially by removing the barriers around the individual's decisions to have children. Supporting families is a rational, sensible, common sense policy, the best investment. In Hungary, we basically need to enable young couples to realize their family goals. Every research and feedback shows that Hungarian youngsters want to start a family. We just need to help them overcome the difficulties they face. Fertility rate increased by 24% compared to 2010. It is the highest increase in the European Union. The EU average has been decreasing, while the Hungarian fertility rate has been increasing since. Compared to 2010, the number of marriages almost doubled, nearly a 90% increase. Last year, the number of marriages concluded in Hungary was equal to the number of marriages concluded in 1986. Since 2010, it is the highest increase in the European Union. The number of divorces are at a 6 decades low. More children were born in marriage, and there are more large families who have more than 3 children in Hungary. The Family Friendly Hungary Center that I represent is the background institution supporting families and family policymakers. Our task is to help and support the Hungarian government's family-friendly measures with research, trainings, extensive programs, and the development of methodologies. Through the various activities of the organization, my colleagues and I support parents in their efforts to reconcile work lives and their private lives. If necessary, we help them directly, for instance, with our own workplace crash. At the center, we run the country's first model workplace crash, providing an example for other organizations and employers on how to set up good workplace crash places. It is my belief that it is best if all parents with small children can freely decide when and to what extent they want to be present on the job market. By creating an adequate number of available crash places, we are helping parents with young children have this freedom of choice. In the coming years, the Family Friendly Hungary Center, as a professional supporter, will help to create an additional 3,300 crash places in Hungary by preparing and supporting the applicants within the framework of a large-scale development program. In our Family Friendly Place certification program, we also try to support the reconciliation of family life and work. With the Family Friendly Workplace certificate, we recognize the merits of employers who, through their various measures, programs, and targeted improvement of working conditions, protect the physical and mental health of their employees and help them maintain a healthy work-life balance. During the consultation and later auditing process, the center's employees personally visit the employers and thereby gain direct insight into their operations. So far, we have awarded over 600 family-friendly workplace certificates, through which about 250,000 employees have benefited from various family-friendly measures. The certificates are also available for service providers, where the applicants can gain certification of family-friendly operations. So far, nearly 900 family-friendly service providers have earned our certificate. Parents and grandparents also need useful and trustworthy information to navigate family life. For this purpose, we have created our own website, család.hu, which means family.hu, where we share the latest daily news and relevant content about family support, as well as interesting, informative, and sometimes personal and touching articles for families with our readership. The values of család.hu have been recognized by many people. Last year, the site's articles already reached more than 2 million readers, and the content of our related Facebook page was viewed 7 million times. We developed our own application with the purpose of sharing information with the Hungarian population about the various forms of family support. After the input of some data regarding the life circumstances, the family support calculator shows the exact amounts of state benefits available. In the 3 months since its launch, about 125,000 people have visited the site, and more than 72,000 have made calculations. However, not everyone has a supportive family behind them. Moreover, for many, it is precisely those with whom they share their lives that pose a threat. The National Crisis Management and Information Telephone Service, operated by the Family Friendly Hungary Center, assists victims of domestic violence and human trafficking. I will try to illustrate what all this means with a few numbers. The National Crisis Management and Information Telephone Service has provided telephone assistance 52,000 times since 2016 and continues to do so as we speak. That is about 10,000 emergency calls per year. During this time, our colleagues have provided nearly 7,000 victims placements in safe accommodations. They coordinate work and liaise with a system that includes 20 crisis centers, 8 secret shelters, 21 halfway houses, and 7 walk-in crisis clinics. In an aging society, it is especially important to prevent the loneliness and isolation of the elderly. It is necessary to protect their physical and mental health and to build and strengthen a culture of staying active while aging. In 2019, we launched a unique elderly affairs officer training program to help the elderly. The aim of the 100-hour course was to train professionals who would be able to contribute to the preparation, organization, and delivery of local active aging programs. More than 500 people were involved in the training. Towards the end of my presentation, I would like to mention our early childhood development project that helps professionals working with and parents of children with special development needs. Through 28 training courses, we trained 12,000 professionals and produced 37 methodological materials. These materials are shared with recognized universities and training institutions within the framework of several cooperation agreements. Regarding the near future, we will soon launch our career orientation pilot program, which includes a financial awareness module. In doing so, we want to support the members of the next generation to become happy, conscious people who successfully find their balance. In addition, we have started to have professionals who support adoption, as we know that families without children may need a significant amount of help as they navigate through the steps towards adoption. In conclusion, I would like to highlight the exemplary collaboration of my colleagues at Family Friendly Hungary Center in an effort to help those fleeing the war. We want to help those who are in the greatest need for support with donations, volunteer work, as well as words of encouragement. Thank you for your attention.